Hello everyone, welcome to the God Stack. Let me just organize my sounds here. Yeah, nice. Welcome everyone. We are going to start the lives again about the software development and talking about the God Stack. And I'm here again with Bruno. My name is Breno. And we both are software developers. Our main goal is to create an engineering that possibility people to develop software with quality, and that it is safe and fast, and you can just understand all that. So let's do that together. Today, what we're gonna do today. Let's just go to the code. In the last session that we have, I've tried to give you as much information I could about the software development, as much information as I could about the Graphql and all of that. But again, before everything, Bruno, welcome to the lives. Can you hear us? Nice. So what we need to do today is to understand the API. I believe that this is the foundation of the backend. So of course we did that in the last session that we have, but doesn't seems that this is real professional. And now the small concepts will start to appear here, right? And how do we do that? We do that through organization. Again, what I did here in the last session was to create all the layers. But if you take a look, for example, to the domains, this is gonna be really big in the future. Now you have books and authors, and then you have, I don't know, libraries, users, and all of that. This file is gonna get really, really, really big, really, really fast. And that's not professional. You need to create some strategies to organize the API in order to make it more readable, and that other software developers will understand what's going on. Okay, so the first thing I will do is to create a folder called SRC, or source folder. And then let's put that inside the API. Actually, I'm going to go into, no, let's do that from here, because every time I create something, it's creating outside. It's just creating with the APIs, and yeah. So what's the source folder? When you are creating an API, Bruno, what do you think that what we should put inside the source folder? Why most of the APIs has this folder? What does that mean? Do you have an idea what does that mean? Yeah, exactly. What do you think that should be inside of the source? For example, let's just use examples. The package JSON. Should we put the package JSON inside the source folder? And why not? Perfect. That is really perfect. It's exactly that. That's the idea. So let's say that inside the source folder, it's the actual code that's going to run. So when I do things like in the last session we did yarn dev in my what? Ah, so I need to go to the API. Yarn dev, when I do the yarn dev that my code is running, this file, it's not running here. The yarn lock is not running here. The git ignore is not running here. This is kind of the infrastructure. It's the preparation of my API. But my real code, it's gonna be the JSs that I have here. So let's do that. Exactly. This is really good definition. Yeah. So let's just get all these JS that I have here. This guy, these, and let's just put in there. So we need, of course, to change the package JSON because we don't have the index.js anymore. We have the index.js inside the source folder. And let's just do that, yarn dev, and voila, it's still working, but it's a little bit more structured. So there is more structure here, and we can just understand it a little better. So if we were talking about the API configuration, it's not exactly the API configuration, but it's what surrounds the API, like the package JSON, git ignores, and things like that. We're gonna have a lot of code here, but what's running, it's inside the source folder, right? There is another concept that's really important when we are talking about the API that we call it interfaces. So what's an interfaces when we are talking API? Do you have any clue about that, Bruno? Yeah. Don't worry, it's exactly that. It's perfect, man. It's really perfect. What we have here, the interfaces, it's how any other thing in the world will connect to your API. So it's like faces. It's actual faces. So when you do faces, you are contacting. It's just like you are seeing something. So I will create this folder here, interfaces, and inside this folder I will create another folder. That's the first interface that we have. It's HTTP. Okay. So this is the first interface. This means that if anyone wants to connect with my API through the HTTP protocol, inside this folder should be the file responsible to do that for me. And in this case, this file, it's this one. So as you can see, I'm starting a server, and this server, it's listening to the HTTP protocol when I do that. Okay, so I'm going to get this code, and I'm going to create inside of the HTTP a new file called server.js. Okay, and I'm going to get all this code, and just do that, and I'm going to put this code here. And instead of doing the server init here, I'm just going to export it, export server. Okay, So now I have, this is an HTTP server. I'm calling it server, but it's actually an HTTP server, as you can see here. And in the index, I'm of course going to import these from that folder. Again, we are using Node.js with modules. For anyone that was not here in the last session, what I did is I'm using these type modules. When I do that in the package JSON, I'm just making all the Node.js that's working here aware that I can use these kind of things, import from, so I don't need to do the const variable requires anything. I can just use the import. But we do that in the proper way. That's in the real way. So you do all the file name with the extension of the file. And again, a lot of people ask that, is it necessary? Well, this is the standard. Why don't we do that in the front end? Well, we don't do that in the front end because the bubble will hide that for you. So you can just do server. But when you import something, you should give all the path for that import. And of course, I'm going to import the server. And here I'm going to do the server init. Oh, server init. And let's see if it's still work. No, it's not working. Why? Let me see. Server init. I've got server from server. Why it's not working? What? The small things. Yeah. So I got the constant server init. If I do that here, it's gonna work. And then I export server and I running this guy. So I'm importing server from server. No, because it's automatically done. So, and when you do that, and you just do the control space, you can see that there is a server in there. The only thing is this guy, it's not running the, let me understand the error that's running. Error mode, can't find module. It's schema. Of course. The error is not the importing. It's this file. It's not here anymore. So this guy, it's here. There we go. .js, and then now there you go. It's running. Well, so can we have other interfaces? What would be other interfaces? Do you have any clue, Bruno? For example, workers. We can have workers, the background workers. What this means in the API, it's automated tasks that runs every some kind of time. It runs again and again and again. So you can have this kind of interfaces. So it's automated tasks that's running into your API. Do we have, for example, commands? What's the commands? Commands, it's exactly the command line. So you can go inside the command line and run some kind of code, and this is going to do something in your API. So you can create a command folder as well. This is all interfaces. So I can interact with my API through the bash. I can do that through automated task. I can do that through an HTTP protocol. Right now, we are just going to do the HTTP. We are going to focus on that. But maybe in the next session, we will use the workers, and I'm going to give you a hint about that. And it's going to be really good. You're going to really like it. So everything is working. So we have the interfaces. And it's starting to get a little bit more professional, isn't it? When you look at that, you say, no, now it's starting to appear to be a little bit more professional. But these files shouldn't be here like that. It's a little bit strange, isn't it? So as this is the schema, and all these files, the application domains and infrastructure, it's about the schema. So as we are working with GraphQL, let's create a folder called schema. Okay, this is gonna my schema is gonna be inside of this, but actually schemas, because in the future you will understand that you can have more than one schema. Okay, so and inside of these, I want to create the schema that we are going to work. So for example, let's call it the God stack schema. Okay, perfect. And let's get all these people and put inside here. Okay, if I did that, of course I need to change this guy as well. So let's do that. So schemas, they got stack schema, and then I have the schema.js. Okay, and it's working. Let's just do it again. Yeah, it's working. Nice. Again, now a little bit more professional. You look at that and you say, so I have the source, all the interfaces are in its places, the schema are here, so I can get the schema, but this doesn't seem to be doesn't seem to be really professional, isn't it? Because my files, all the files I've have infrastructure, again, it's going to grow really much, and we need to do something about that. So let's do that. Let's for example create here a folder, and this folder is gonna be the books folder. Okay, so what I want to do is to get everything that I have and put inside the books. That's about the book. So that's what I'm gonna do. But I'm gonna get this file and put outside. So I have like this. So this guy needs the type defs and the resolvers. Of course, this is gonna break because we are changing the files here. And let's do something. Let's create it, because it needs the type defs and resolvers. It's getting from the domain and application, understands that. But let's create a file here called type defs. Type defs.js. Nice. And let's create a new file called the resolvers.js. Perfect. So what I need to do is to have a file here that's responsible for all the type defs. So because I'm gonna have all the type defs from books, from library, authors, users, whatever, and I'm going to make everybody together in these two different files. So right now we have these. So we have the type defs. So I'm going to put the type defs here, and then after we are going to separate it and then let's get the infrastructure here, copy it, and put it into the resolvers. Okay, so I have my resolvers here, and then we are going to get every single function we have here, and then we are going to separate it again in order to create a better view for this application. So let's just get these and get the type defs, gonna be type defs again .js, and the resolvers, it's gonna be the resolvers.j. Exactly. Exactly. So in the server, of course, this is not here, this is here. Let's get that. Again, it's working. I'm listening. Every time we see and I'm listening here, it's working. So let's get, well, actually inside of book, let's create a folder, new folder, and we're gonna call it domain. Okay, inside of book, let's create another folder called application. Okay, and another folder called infrastructure. This is always a very challenging word for me. And nice. So what do I have inside the domain? So let's create the domain book. So let's call it book.js. Okay. And we need all this information about book in there. So I have the book. Okay, so I have the type book, I have the type author, and I have the query. So I want to do all of that, but I'm going to, how can I say, strip all this information one by one. So let's first of everything, let's just get this type book, okay, and put here into a constant, and let's call it book domain. Perfect. And let's put that here. So I just have a constant here with this information. Okay, there we go. The author, it's part of the book's domain. So I'm going to get this author and put it here as well, because it's the definition of book domain. We're gonna have author. Can we separate, just for example, get the author and put the author into a separate domain? So I could, for example, create a new folder here called authors, and then do that. Yes, you can, but right now for this example, it's in the same domain. What's the domain? Domain, it's the definition of something. So I'm trying to define books. When I'm trying to define books, the author, it's here. Of course, in this case, so this is the reason the author will be here. In the future, we can just get it out from here and do other. So let's create another constant here, and let's call it book queries. Okay, so all the queries of the book we are going to get and put here. So let's just do that. Let's go to the type defs, but I'm not going to get this type query. I'm just going to get the part that it's inside of this. So let's choose that. So I'm just going to get this and put it in here. Why I'm doing that, you're gonna see in a moment. And then you're going to it's gonna click in your head what I'm doing here. So I don't need that anymore. Okay, nice. So I can just go to my book and I can export, okay, both of these variables. So I'm just going to export book and book queries. Okay, there we go. We have both of them exported. What I'm going to do in the type defs, I'm going to import it. So I'm going to import from, let's get it from books domain, and then book.js. There we go. And now I can get both of the variables, book domain and book queries, and I can get the book domain. This is a string, so if it's a string, I can use template strings. There we go. Nice, isn't it? So I can get the template strings and just do the book queries. Okay, there we go. It's listening. Did you understand what I've done, Bruno? It's good. Yeah, let's do that. That works. Yeah. So here you go. We have the books with all the documentation, and we have all the things that string. So we have boolean and all that, and of course I can do the query, and I can just query books here, and I need the ID, the title, the year, the author, and of course author. I need ID, name, and I need the ages. When I do that, it's still working. And if I remember, we have the type defs, the resolvers actually, and we have for title, book's title, we can do the parent, isn't it? So for the book's title, exactly, I can do that. So let's do some true. There we go. The book, it's uppercase. So everything perfect, isn't it? It's still working. And as you can see, it's starting to get a little bit more professional. So I don't want this file anymore. I don't need it, because now I have a domain just for the book. And as you can see, if I have domains for other things, just like great for authors, for library, for anything that's important, I can just create another folder, do the domain, create it, create in the same way that we did here. We can do the queries, we can do the mutations and all of that, just separate everything, and then you merge all of them here, export these type defs, save. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, ready to go, guys. This is I can even explain how happy I am doing that, because it seems so simple, and in the same way it's so good. So exactly. So let's do the same thing, but now with the resolvers. So the resolvers will be inside the application. But inside the application, I want to, for example, have all the queries. Okay. I just have one query here, that's books. So let's create it. New file, book.js. It's not book, sorry. It's books. Books.js, and let's get this function. Okay, I'm just going to get this function, and I'm going to put it here, of course, as a const books. It's like this one. Oh yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I actually did that. The domain, it's always in the singular, because it represents what a book is. But the query, it's about all the books. Thank you, Bruno, for that. I was not just seeing that. And the query is about querying all the books in the backend. So there we go. So I'm just going to export the books here. Beautiful. And what do I do? I don't need. Yeah, I need that actually. So let's import and do the same thing. Import from, and then let's just get it from books, applications, queries, and books.js. And here I have books, and we are going to use the in JavaScript. When you have an object, you don't need to do that. Books, it's books. Every time it's the same name, you can just do that and it's gonna work. So there you go. I'm still listening, and now the function, it's just separated in another place. Okay, nice. What I want to do now is to do the same thing with both of the other things, but remember that this is the chaining. We call it chaining. So what are we gonna do here? We're going to create a new folder here called chains. Okay, and the first chain I'm going to create here, it's the book chains. Okay, and of course inside of the book chain, let's create a file and call it book.js. Okay, let's call it book chain to be more specific. Bookchain.js, and we know that when it's a chain like that, it's gonna be like this. So let's get the resolvers, and I want all of it. I want all of it. Okay, let's just cut it. Inside of chain, I will create an index file here, index.js. Okay, and I'm just going to put it here. So let's do this const book, it equals, and then just get this. Okay, there we go. No. I'm just redoing the same thing. I don't need to do that. I just can't do that. Perfect. So I have now a constant with book, and this book has an object with the functions I've had before. So let's just export it. Export, and then let's just export book. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to import it. Import book from books.application.chains.index.js. Okay, so I have the book here now. What I'm going to do in order for these to work, I'm going to do that. So no, actually I'm going to do that. Book, yeah, just that. So I don't need to, so I just get this book and put it here. Okay, let's see if it still works. And when I do that, books is not defined. Let's just take a look at this chain. So I'm get the book and doing the, have I query book. What do I have? Just like that. Yeah. But it's not going to get the book here, I believe. Let's see. See? Not working. Let me just go back because I messed up in this thing. So what I need is this in there. Okay, so this should be there. The thing is, I copy everything, and I should, let's close this, and I should, in the chain, I should have this object, right? Yeah. So just yeah. So let's import it here. Import these books from books.application chains book it's not book. Sorry. Because actually I'm going to get these things and put inside another file to separate it. I'm just doing that here right now, but I will separate it again. This is what I'm trying to do. It's listening because it's like here. So let's try like that and see if it happens. Yes, now it's working. I just messed it up with the objects I've copied. So let's check again. No, reference books not defined. What I've done here? Because I believe that it needs to be. I believe that it needs to be an object with book like this. So it needs to be this kind of object. And then let's do that. And right. So let's do that. Okay. It's gonna do that, and instead of doing that, I'm going to do that. Yeah, it's listening. This is actually better because I can actually get the book from chain, what I've said before. Sorry. This? I decrease and of course, yeah, 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 exactly. So I need to import it from the infrastructure. Import. Let's get from here. Yeah. Let's we don't have our database exactly. So let's get the books.js and it's gonna be a new file. Let's put it here, the authors.js exactly. So it gets it from the books. It's gonna be inside the books, and then export books. Nice. And the authors. We are going to get the authors here, and we're going to put it into the infrastructure and export the authors. There we go. Nice. So we don't need the infrastructure anymore file because we have exported there. Move to trash. And then, of course, in the queries, I need to import from infrastructure books.js, and then let's get the books here. This is good, but I believe that this is breaking because I'm doing yeah, but I don't need this file. Yeah, no, the thing is I don't need this file anymore, isn't it? Infrastructure. Yeah, it's like this. Yes, I don't need this anymore. Okay, of course. There we go. Some organization. I don't need these anymore. Let's see if it's running. The authors, it's not, of course, the authors, it's exactly the same problem, but the authors, it's in the chaining. All right. So what I'm going to do, instead of have these, I'm going to get this object that's here, and I'm going to put it into the book chain. Okay. And const, call it book chain, and this is going to be equal like that. Is this, I forgot to get one. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. If you have any doubts, just put it into the chat. And let's import these from and let's get it from book bookchain.js, and let's get the book chain, and now this is gonna be like that. Nice. There we go. So let's check if it's working. It's not because the authors that we are going to do now. So let's import these from the infrastructure. What? I know. I need to go back a little bit more. Then get from the infrastructure the authors.js, and here I just get the authors, and let's see. Ta-da! It's working again. Perfect. So what I've did, it's the chaining. When we're working with chaining, we're gonna have a lot of chains. So maybe you are working with your GraphQL application, and you have, for example, we have in this case we have books and we have authors. So we need to do exactly the same thing with author. So let's copy author and do the same process. So I need here a const author. Okay, and author equals an object that has this author. Okay, and if I get if I can export this author, and inside the resolvers I'm going to import it from authors, and I'm just going to do that, and probably it's gonna work. Yes, it is still working. So in the end, what's gonna happen in this resolver file, it's just going to organize all the domains you have in your application. Okay, so let's just try to now that everything is better organized, let's try to take a look around and see what's happening here. So since the beginning that we have in the files, this is the HTTP server. So everything starts here. This is the beginning of everything. And this is the schema, and this is a Apollo server. And then in my Apollo server, I have a init that it's an arrow function. Every time I'm executing the init, the server will start. Perfect. I didn't talk to the context yet to you, but we are going to get there. But the most important thing is the schema, right? So where is the schema? The schema, it's inside the schemas folder. What's the schema about? The schema, it's about the definition of my data and the functions that will be executed and will give life to my API. So every time I do a query, the query will be in the resolvers and all of that. Where is the type defs and resolvers? It's inside my schema. So I have the type defs, the definition of my API. So everything is here. So I have my type defs. I have everything defined here. This is all strings. And then we get the domain from the books domain inquiry from the query. Where do we do that? If we're talking about books, we have specific folder to talk about it. So we have the domain, and inside the domain, I have all the definitions about domain, all the queries. In the future, we're gonna have mutations. In the future, we're gonna have subscriptions and all that. So it's gonna be here separated. This is the domain, the description of my data. The business logic, it's inside the application layer. In the application layer, I have my queries. So here it is. This is my this is the function that will be called when we call the books query. And the books has chainings. So I have the book chaining, and now we need the author chaining as well. So let's do the same thing. Create a new folder called author. Okay. And inside of here, a new file called author chain.js. And then I'm just going to get this thing. Okay. And no, I'm gonna get this thing. Okay, and then I'm going to put it here. This is gonna be a const author equals this object, and then let's just export author. There we go. And then in here I do the import from author chain.js. Actually, this is not author, this is author chain. Okay, and then let's get this here, get it here, and put it here. There you go. Did I did something to change it? No. Let's test it if it's working. Let's do some false here just to see some different results. There we go. Everything is working, and as you can see, it's really better organized. So this is more profession. When you, as you saw before, it's the same files. In the beginning of everything, I had just one file inside the API. It was the index.js, and we run everything. All my information was there. And then we started to rebuild that. So I didn't do anything new from what we've had in the just one file index.js and what we have now. It's exactly the same thing, but the only difference, it's better organized. This means that I can grow my API now. For example, if I want to create, let's think about creating another thing. Let's create Do you have an idea? What can we create? People in the chat, do you have anything that you like that could create? Yeah, let's create a cats domain. Like anybody saying anything, so let's create cats domain. So you're gonna see that we will not, it's not chapters. It's gonna be good to create chapters, but chapters will be inside the books domain. I just want to create a new one. It's a good idea. We can do that, but I was just thinking about something that's a completely new domain. Actually, let's create here. Yeah, I know you like cats. Yeah. Let me think. Let's create users. It's a most common domain that you're gonna have in your application. So what are you gonna do? Yeah, application. Let's create it's the first thing in all the APIs. A new folder called domain, okay, and a new folder called infrastructure. Oh my god, this is always the word that gives me nightmare. And let's start with the domain. So if it's the user's domain, so this is gonna be the user.js. Okay. So first things first, let's create the user domain, and it's a string, so let's define this. Let's do that. Type user. What do we have in type user? ID. What else? Do you know, Bruno? What else do you have in? Perfect. Let's use email for username. It's string. We need password. Password. It's gonna be a string. Okay. Well, it's all right. This is enough. Okay. And let's create another const that's called user queries, and user queries will be a string. And we have here the users, okay, the definition of the users. And when we do that, inside the parentheses, it's anything that you're going to fetch. And after the column, it's everything that you're going to receive. Of course, when you are querying users, you're going to receive back user, all right? And for user, for example, maybe we can fetch it for IDs, get different. And we are not just going to receive one user. We are going to receive an array of users. Every time I query for users, I'm going to receive an array of users back. This seems good. Let's just get it into the import. There is no array for GraphQL. If it's an array, it's just like an user, and it's gonna be an array of that. I'm sorry, an object. If you want to receive an object of use, this is gonna give back an object. But you can have, yeah. in this case, the way I'm doing, no, we return an array. But this is a real good question that you're doing. Because when we fetch by ID, the only thing, I believe that what you're saying, Bruno, is when we fetch by ID, what you're going to receive back, it's an array with just one user. So why don't we receive the object of the user instead of an array with one user inside of that? Isn't it? Isn't? Yes, but we could have, for example, and people do that in the REST API, we could do that. User by ID. Okay, we could create another query here called user by ID that answers an user. And then you just do the user here ID, just like that. You can have that. But I don't like this idea. Why I don't like this idea? I prefer to have just one thing, and with one thing I can do all, because you will be following the GraphQL idea. So I just call the backend, and the backend it's gonna give me what I've said. Because if I don't pass the ID, I'm gonna receive an array with all the users. So with just one query, I can have one user or all the users just in the same query. And it's better for the front end to always receive an array, even if it's going to have just one user inside of it. And you're gonna feel that in the next when we start to work with the React. We're going to build the React from the same thing we're doing to the API. We're going to do with the React. We're going to build it from the ground. We're going to do all code by code, and you will understand that you need to be consistent. So if I fetch user in the API, I'm always receiving an array back. No matter what I do, I'm always receiving an array back. And this way, if you keep this standard, the front end will be easier, because you know that it's expected an array. If you call anything in the backend, the expected answer it's an array. I don't know if I was clear with my explanation, but did you understand the idea? Isn't it? Yeah. Perfect. So this is the reason I'm using an array here, and you're gonna see me using that a lot. I don't like to separate things. I like to be consistent and just one source of information, and this is what GraphQL it's about. I have one source of information. I can pass different parameters and always receiving the same information back. It's consistent. This is the idea. I don't know if I was clear. Perfect. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So now I have the domain. I'm going to go to the type tabs, and wait, what? I didn't export it. Yeah, export. Oh, export, and then let's export user domain and user query. Perfect. Wait, what? Huh? Of course, because I believe that. Yeah, of course. User queries, domain queries. And let's get it from here. Let's get the user domain and user queries. What we're gonna do? It's a string. You just need to put it here. So let's put the user domain here and the user query here. Okay. And now, is it going to work in the front end? Do you think that's going to work in the front end? If I just replay it, if I try to do that, for example, what do you think that's going to happen? Users, there we go. And I can receive ID, email, and password. It's actually working. And why? Why it's working? It shouldn't be working, isn't it? Because I don't have the resolvers for users. I don't have resolvers for users. How is this working? It's working. Yes, it's a cute question. It's working because of this guy. This guy is doing that. It's creating an executable schema. This means that when I pass the type defs, it automatically creates the resolvers in the background for me. But as I didn't define it, it always returns null. So my application will not break. If I want to define this, I need to put inside query. So I should have here a users, I'm sorry. That's the query. Okay, so let's do that. So we need to import the users from, I don't have yet. Okay, so let's create a new folder, queries, and inside the query, a new file, users .js. Okay, and let's create the const users. This needs to be a function that return users. Okay, where it's users, const import const not, I'm sorry, import from I don't have the infrastructure, so let's create it. New file, users.js, const users. This is gonna be this, and then let's just create two users. ID U1. It needs an email. Let's just do breno@gmail.com, and let's do the password. This password is gonna be 1234567 8. Perfect. And I have another ID that's gonna be U2. That's gonna be Bruno. Bruno Kurt at gmail.com. It's gonna be 876 543 21. So that's it. I have this information. Now I can get it from import from, let's get to the infrastructure and get it from users. So let's get that. Don't I have? Of course I didn't export it. Export, and then export users. There we go. Then in the query, I can export users. There we go. It's gonna answer the users, and then in the I can get the users from users. So application queries users.js. Let's save it, and it's crashing because I believe I didn't export it. Of course, export users. There you go. It's working. Let's see what happens. There we go. I have my users here. Any questions, Bruno, about that? Exactly. 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 So I can create any domain I want, and you can do. Welcome, Mr. Bittencourt. Welcome, Newton, to the live. We are talking about GraphQL a little bit. Welcome, welcome, guys. Uh, now it's more as you said, it's more scalable. So I can create any domain I want. I'm just going to put it inside the resolvers, put it inside the type depths. I can grow it uh, as much as I want to. Okay, but there's something that's bothering me. There is a lot of mistakes in the standard of this code. So example, as you can see here, this is really like that and should be like that. And there is nothing here helping me to improve the code quality, because the code works. Nice. It's nice that the code works, but I want the code to works and to have quality. And how do I do that? Do you have an idea of how can I do that, Bruno? Perfect. Exactly what I want to do. So, if we want to do that, let's just take a look at that. Is linked, okay? And let's see uh, what does it do. So the AceLint is gonna find the problems, fix it automatically, and you can customize it for whatever you like in the way you like. So in the get started, it's gonna give you how you're gonna do that. Okay, if you're going to use npm, you can do that. In yarn, you can do that. Let's just do this. So let's copy it and let's run it here. Yarn add acelint, and it's gonna add this link to my code. Beautiful. Now I have this link styled in my code. As you can see here, it's in the dev dependencies. Why it's in the dev dependencies? It is here because I just want it to run when it's running locally. Into production, I don't want the islint to run, because if I do locally and everything is alright, into production it's gonna be alright as well. Okay. So the next thing that it says is to get the islint init. Okay. So let's do that, and now it's gonna do some questions for me. And the first one is, how would you like to use ESLint? Just to syntax only, syntax and find problems. So we want syntax, find problems, and enforce code style. Well, if you are doing that professionally, again, I believe that's required that the standard it's always accepted and the standard is always followed. So we are going to use the last one. We are going to be more strict to the code we are doing. What type of modules are you going to use? Require none of these. In this case, as we are using the type module in the Nodejs, so we are using type modules in the backend, we are not using the require anymore. So it's gonna be, it's gonna be import and it's gonna be the import and export. Which of these frameworks are you going to use in your project? I'm not going to use none of these. So it's not front end, it's back end. Why is Linux asking me that? Because in the past it was not possible to use import in the backend unless you're using Babel or anything to compile the code for you. But now it's possible. You just do the type modules and everything's gonna work. But ESLint still thinks that you are in the front end, so asks you what kind of framework you're using. I'm not using any of these, so none of these. Does your project use TypeScript? It's not using TypeScript. Where does your code run? This is a little bit tricky. Most of the people just do the it's Node, but you need to actually hit the spacebar to remove one or another. I'm just going to use it in the backend, so it's just gonna be in the Node. I'm not going to use it into the browser. So you need to move your arrows and select it with the space, what you want. So it's just Node. How would you like to define the style of your project? Of course, if we were trying to standardize our code, we need to follow some standards, and there is some in the internet. You can ask questions about it. You can use inspector JavaScript file to understand what's that. But I like to use some popular guides that's already there. And the one I like to use better, it's the Airbnb one. For me, it's a real good one. But if you want to, you can use the standard from GitHub, or you can use Google. Any of these are real good standard. But when you choose one, you need to follow this one kind of forever in these projects. I really like the Airbnb one, so I'm going to use that. And the last question that's going to do for you, it's what kind of configuration file you want to create. So the ESLint configuration file, it's going to be a JavaScript one, YAML one, or JSON one. Most of the people use JavaScript and JSON. It's like 50-50. So I'm just going to use JSON. Why? No reason at all. So the next step that's going to do, it needs to install some more libraries. And there is a trick here, because ESLint just knows how to use it doing the npm. It doesn't know how to do the yarn. But I'm going to accept to do that by npm because it's indifferent. But in the end of the process, it's going to create a package lock JSON, and we are going to delete it. We're going to delete the node modules and reinstall again, just because I wanted to do that for me. So I'm going to do the yes, and it's going to install this library, that's the Airbnb base, and it's going to use the ESLint plugin port to handle with all the information. Any doubts, Bruno? Yeah, it's just step by step, and we are just reading that. This is the reason I don't like npm. It's much more slower than yarn. As you can see, it's taking a while to do that. See, all my files are just saying, hey, some problems in your files, a lot of problems here, but I'm not going to take a look at that yet. So let's just, the first things first, I'm going to remove the package lock JSON because I already have the yarn lock, okay? So when you do npm install, it creates package lock JSON. When you do yarn install, it creates yarn lock. Or you have one, or you have another. Never have both of them, okay? Right now, I'm going to delete both of them. I'm just going to delete both of them. And I'm going to delete the Node modules folder as well, right? So let's do that. Nice. Let's see if it's, yeah, removed. What I'm gonna do, yarn install. So it's going to install all the dependencies in my project using the package JSON, and it's just going to create one file that's going to be the yarn log file. Okay, there you go. Again, the yarn, it's really faster than npm. Just to install 3 libraries from ESLint, it took a lot of time, and to install everything in my project with yarn, it was like really fast. You could see that it's observable and so different. Yeah. Well, let's get one file and see if there are any errors here. There's a lot of errors, and this is one of the things I like about linting or linting files, because you are going to follow a standard. I'm using the VS Code, and as I'm using the VS Code, you go here, the preferences and settings, and inside settings you have this icon here. You click on it, and I have these things configured in my VS Code. What does it do? This is gonna do, if I'm using JavaScript or TypeScript, it doesn't matter. It's going to automatically fix my code when I save it. So when I do the Control S and save my file, it's gonna be automatically linted for me. So this is the reason when I do that, Control S, everything will be corrected. Some of the things are still with the problems. The first one is, it's saying, hey, you should prefer to do default export, right? So what he's saying is I should do something like that. Export default and server. And there you go, it's working. I'm not going to do that. I don't like to do that. And why don't I like to do that? And the reason is, some of the files I will use a default. Some of the files I will use named export. And these starts to get a little bit confusing, because sometimes you do export with naming, sometimes you do export with default. It's like that, without the brackets. And all of these will be really confusing. And sometimes you're just like, hey, should I use the brackets? Should I not use the brackets? And you're like, lost. What do I do to solve this problem? You can get this link that it's creating an error for you. Okay, so I can get this guy, and then let's get it. And I can go to my ESLint, and inside of rules, I can create this rule and say 0. So I'm going to turn it off. Okay, and there we go. I don't have any more problems with the server thing, just because I just turn it off. Okay, let's save it. What's trailing comma? What? Okay, in the J there is no trailing comma. Perfect. And now, again, when you're using the JavaScript, most of the people uses it with Babel, and Babel just removes the .js, and this is what's saying, hey, we have an expected file extension, because when you are following the Airbnb style, it says, hey, you don't need to do that, you should do that. But if I do that in the backend, following the through standard using the type module, this is not going to work. If I save my file and not yarn style yarn dev, if I run this, I'm gonna have a error here saying, hey, I cannot import it because I can't find it. Because again, when you are working with JavaScript, you need, of course, this needs to be an object as well. So there you go. It's working. So when you are working with through JavaScript, when you import something, you need to say all the path to that. This is the standard, and you just can go to the Node.js. Well, I will get the these in the documentation for you to see in the next live. I'm not going to find where it says that, but it says that. So and then you say now we have a problem because when I'm working with slint and it's RMBAB, it says to remove, but if I remove my code, it's not working. So what you're gonna do? You're gonna do exactly the same thing. You're gonna get these things that the import extensions, and we are going to remove it. Okay, I'm going to remove. No, this time I'm not going to remove. I'm going to add it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say that always you will always ask for the extension. So now it's going to be the opposite. If I don't have the extension, it's going to ask for it. Okay, and this is what this thing is doing. It's doing always. So you need to always do that. Another thing that I like to do, and there is a lot of people that's gonna argue about it. So should we do that or should we not do that? And there is a big discussion between friends, between all the developers, if we should use the semicolon in the end of the JavaScript lines or not. Bruno, what do you have to say about that? Do you use it? Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you in that. And the reason I don't like the semicolon is if it's not necessary, why I'm using. And some people will say it is necessary. Why? Because you can do things like that. For example, let's create a const here called Breno, and let's do that. Okay. And I can do if something, okay, return. If I have the semicolon, this code will work. If I do this code without the semicolon, it's not going to work. Okay, but there is always a but. What's my thinking about that? You should not return void. This is not good when you are working with functional languages. So if you are working with object-oriented languages, you're gonna see that a lot. So you should return something, or true at least, or false, or undefined. You should always return something. Even if you're going to do return undefined, you should return something, okay? I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And there is one more thing. It's not just that. It's that. But if you get this code and run it into a Lambda server, and we are going to do that in the future, we are going to get this code and run it into Amazon Lambda. If you don't return, you're gonna have a problem. That is a problem that's gonna cost you a lot of money. How does Lambda works? Lambda, it's a server that you just upload functions to there, and then you can call it anywhere in the world. You just call a function and you get the return of that function and do something. So for example, you can create a function to process an image. The thing is, if you get an application and put it into Lambda, you call it and it never returns something, it will be always being processed. If you forget to return and put your code into Lambda, it will run forever. This means that every second it's gonna cost you money, and it's gonna cost you more and more and more. So every time you call the backend, the function will be running, and Amazon, for example, will be charging you for that. Because if you return, the function is executed and it's already returned, and Amazon just stopped right there. So it's not like always running, it just runs once and you just paid for that running. If it keeps running for a minute, an hour, you're gonna pay for that minute, you're gonna pay for that hour. So that's another thing that why I don't like to use the semicolon, because it obligates me to return something, and when we go to the Lambda servers on Amazon, this is gonna work like a charm, and we are not going to pay a lot of money for bad code. And this is the reason I'm not going to use the semicolon, because all of these, and it's gonna help me in the Lambda servers. Did you understand that, Bruno? This is why. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna work with that. Yeah, we're gonna work with that. And why are we gonna? There is another thing as well. I'm using Node version. Oh, sorry, version. The Node version I'm using it's the 14. The only Lambda server in the cloud that works with Node 14, it's the Amazon one. The Google one, it's still in the version 8 of Node.js. We are in the version 14. Google, why are you not updating your servers? Why are you still using the version 8 of Node.js? in the cloud. I cannot use the Google Cloud for Node.js because it's still the version 8. My God, what Google are doing, it's not that difficult. So Amazon did that. Everybody that works with Node.js, it's just migrating to Amazon just because these silly mistakes. Why people want to use the Node version 14? Because in the Node version 14, I have this thing. It's the type module. With the type modules, I can do the imports and exports. And so let's save it. Let's save this file. And then let's just open all the files and save. We don't actually need to do that. You can actually run a command. Let's create a command in the package JSON. I have the dev, but I'm going to use this one as well. I'm going to remove that. So what's gonna do? It's gonna run linked inside every file folder and whatever I have inside the source folder. Okay, so if I do that, yarn linked, now it's gonna read all the files and show me all the errors that I have. Oh, it's a lot of errors. And do I have to go inside of every folder I have and make this right? It's not needed. What you do is you do yarn. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't the same. Yeah, you just do yarn linked fix. There you go. It already fixed all these files for me, all the linking of these, and there is actually 3 things that it couldn't save the problem, but you can just go to the file and see what's happening. So let's just take a look at this. There is a console log. Well, of course you should never deploy code with console logs. You don't use console logs. But actually in this case, I want to do that. Okay, I want to do the console log of the I'm listening. Actually, I'm going to get this code that's it's better, and let's see what's happened. So let's run my application, and there we go. I have this message now, and it's in blue. This is the blue color. When you're doing console log, you can create a color here. So it's gonna be in blue. This is the blue color. Very, very strange way to do the blue color. And then I have the message here. Arthur asked the question, what's the difference between importing through modules or importing through Como.js? You mean what's the difference doing that? Import that from some file .js. So you could do like my func, and you have the older way doing that, const my func equals require, and then you would have something like file.js. You would have these two different, and he's asking in the chat, what's the difference between doing that and that? Actually, I don't know exactly, but what I've read, I can be wrong. Okay, so we should check that. I will check that in the next session. I will say if it's true what I'm saying or not. But this one, it's actually using like an opening file. So it's requiring with an opening file. So it's going to open this and get the information put in here. And this one, it's using it by memory. So when you run all your application, it gets everything, puts into the memory, and can handle better the memory. But maybe I'm wrong. I need to check this information. But the last time I was reading people in the forums talking about that, what I get from what they were talking about, it's that this one is almost like opening file. Every time you call it, it opens and try to renders it, put into inside this variable. And this one is just doing that by the memory and reorganizing all your code like one single code to be run, and then it's going to run this line, this line, this line. And I believe this is the question, but I need to check. So I will, in the next session, I will get it and try to give you a better answer. This is what I've understanding people talking in the forums I've made. I don't know if Bruno has the right question. Do you have? The right answer. I'm sorry, not the right question. The right answer. Yeah. Yeah. But I promise you, Arthur, I will read about it, and in the next section, I will give you a better and full explanation about the difference between the import and the require. Right? So let's run the yarn lint again. Okay. So we were solving the console log problems. When you are working with linting, there is something you can do when you have these warnings. I strongly, again, take care with that. I strongly recommend you to not do that unless you are 100% sure that you should do that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do the quick fix and disable for this line. So I do that. And now the slint will ignore what I'm doing here. Please, again, I'm going to say, please don't do that in the code. In this specific case, we want the console log to be here. But for example, you should never upload console logs in your application. Let's take a look, for example, at this. I have two console logs here. I've got here in params that in the last session that we have, last live that we did, we forget here. And it should not be here, because when you run your application, yarn dev, yarn dev, and it's running, when I fetch for things here and it gets my information, it's going to console logs I need the books actually. So get the books. So as you can see, it's doing the I've got here with. You should not do that. It should not be here. It's just because you do that locally in order to check some information, but you should not do that. So, but the console log. Another thing that I want to do when you do the yarn lint, it's just saying that the console log, it's not an error. It's just saying it's a warning. Hey, warning, you should not do that. But I want to, how can I say? I want to enforce my, I want to enforce the no console to be mandatory. So it's not going to be a warning, it's going to be an error. So how do I do that? Let's just ask for the no console is linked enforce. Okay, so you can go to is linked and you can see that all the consoles is not going to be mandatory. You have all the information. So how do you do that right? How do you do that wrong? And what I'm going to do, I actually wanted these, but not as a warning, but as an error. Let's just get no console as an error. Let's see if we get that. I didn't remember how to do that. Let me see if I can. I know that you just change it here, so it should be like no console instead of off, because if I do off, it's going to just turn it off. I don't want it. Let's try this one instead of off. Let's just do the always and see if it works. It isn't. I have off, I have on. It's not working. Well, I don't know right now, but let's remove it. Right. Well, I will figure out in the next section as well, and get how do I enforce the console log instead of being warning to be an error. Okay, so let's remove it, save it. The params, it's not being used, another error, so we can remove it, and let's try the fix again. There we go, it's done. Now all the code I have, it's proper configured, and I can just trust in the code I'm doing here. Okay, the last thing we are going to do for this session, we are going to put this code into the GitHub, and then everyone will have access to that, so you can just like I know, fork it or do anything. So let's go to the GitHub. This is my GitHub. Let's just do new and call it TGS. Okay. It's gonna be public one. Not going to add any README or anything like that. I don't want git ignore. I don't have create file. Yeah. Okay. Now I have the TGS, is the gold stack, of course. And what I'm gonna do that. So I need to do the it's not going to be here, it's going to be here. Perfect. So git init. Perfect. Now it's in Git repository. Okay, so the thing is I need to add everything. It's used the master branch. It doesn't work, no problem. So git add everything, git commit with a message. The message is gonna be my first commit. Okay, nice. And then you have a specific git push to do that. So most of the time, what do? I just do git push, and it's gonna say you can't push, you should do yeah, I need to add the origin of the project, so let's do that. Let's add the remote of these. Perfect. Now it's connected to the GitHub that I have, and git push, now I can do the git push thing, and it's gonna do the code here for me. I just get this and do the copy and paste here, git push origin master. Okay, nice, beautiful. And let's see what happens here now. There we go. Now we have the code here. The code is all here. We have all the things, but there is one thing that we've changed it through time. And what is that? We are not using master anymore, the master slave branch. We dropped that. Why? Because the word has a past, you know, this master and slave thing. We should not use that anymore. It's 2021, so let's be better people, okay? And so what are we gonna do in order to fix this problem? So I'm going to do git checkout into main, git checkout, and create a branch called main. Okay, nice. And then I'm going to push it to my repository. Okay, copy and then push it to my repository. Perfect. Now, if I refresh it, I will have both of the branches. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do the git push. I believe that's /t origin master. It's the push was /delete, I believe. Yeah, origin master. I believe that I need to force it. Master refuses to delete current branch. Okay, let's do that using the view all branches. Yeah, because in the GitHub it started with the default. Yeah. Let me see, how do I do that here? It's not these branches. Yeah, perfect. Let's change it and let's use the main update. I understand, update the default branch. Perfect. Now the main branch, it's the main. So let's try to do that again. And there, we are better person now, better people, and we just have the well, that's not what defines us as a good people, but it's a step. It's a step in the future. Do that. If you're working in a project that you're using the master slave and whatever name you're using, let's just be better people. 2021, we can do that. We can do better, right? So that's perfect. Perfect. We have our branch. We have everything that we need. Let's just get these. If anyone is interested in the, let's just put in the channel for people. So there you go. We have it. And with that, I believe that our session it's over. Do you have anything to say, Bruno? Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And as you can see, there is no difference from what we did now and what we have in the last session. In the last session, we had just one file that we divided in five different files. And now what we did, we just organized the information. The information is now just better organized, and you can improve it in the future, create different domains and all of that. So when you are working as an engineering and when you are thinking about creating your API, this is one of the things that you should do. You should think about how I will structure my code to be a code that it's more scalable, that it's better to do all the if you need to get different bugs and other thing. For example, yeah, books. Exactly. Exactly. And another good thing is if I have a bug in books, there is just one place I would go. I would go just in the books folder. There is no other place that you're gonna find errors about books in my application. The interface is isolated, the schemas is all isolated, all the domains is isolated, everything's isolated. So if you're trying to get books and you have any bugs, this is the only folder you're going. So this is going to improve the way you work with code. That's it. Okay, guys. Again, people. People. Thank you very much for the session. Every Tuesday and Thursday we will have the sessions and we will build it together from the API, from the front end. In the next session, we will work with Docker. So I will explain you how to create a Docker for an API using proxies and all of that. So see you on Tuesday. It's from 10 p.m. to midnight in Lisbon. It's from 6 to 8 in Brazil. Other regions, you can just go to the channel. There is the dates there in the Twitch. You just go to Twitch. There is a place that shows the date, so it's gonna show the date in the place you are living. But most of Europe, it's gonna be 11 and 10 or 11. It starts at 10 or 11, and in Brazil it starts at 6. Most of the South America is gonna be around 6 to 7, something like that. 5, 6, or 7 in the South America. Thank you guys very much. See you in the next. Bruno. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna teach you everything.